Okay, I'm just going to give you some of my impressions of the case, and to see a summary of what happened in this case, you can refer to my previous video, which is the first video I've ever done on YouTube, and you can also refer to Dr. Grande, who I respect. He has a good amount of content on his site, on his channel, but one of the things that I wanted to do with this video is to also give some of my own analysis and kind of get further beneath the surface, because Dr. Grande, as much as I love him, he seems to be cranking out videos a lot lately, and they are quite, I don't want to say superficial, but they are less of a deep dive into possibly some of the things that I want to see and want to hear about when I watch his videos, like his take on the psychological aspect of cases, which is the value added, in my opinion, among other things that he brings to the channel. So if Dr. Grande ever hears this, shout out to Dr. Grande. I definitely appreciate all the content that he has created and the way that he's organized all of his thoughts and analysis, as well as the summaries of the facts. I find that they're typically very well researched and well verified, and probably very accurate. So for a lot of facts, I really do rely on his videos when I'm going down a true crime rabbit hole, with respect to, though, the kinds of takeaways that he's given in more recent times, more recent videos. I do find them to be a little bit pop culture-y, that they can be a little bit more shallow and less, and I guess that's a compromise you have to strike when you have this kind of content creation mandate and schedule. You can't really go deep on everything, but I would appreciate also a little bit more reflection on cases like this, because I don't believe, for example, that the redaction of the reports on the manner of death and the events directly leading up to and including the drowning really do add a lot more value to the world in terms of that is Trigg's final message. I don't really know if I agree with that statement. So there are just a few things, and they could be just my viewpoint, but overall, I guess what I want to say is that there is a lot of content out there. There is a lot of material that one could really take time to go through. There's not going to be probably a lot that's new. One of the things that could be of value is a read through of what happened according to the police reports. So I've got a copy of the police report here that I'm going to look at while talking to you. And whoever you are, listeners, if you're out there, I think it's important to remember that we derive whatever meaning we want out of this case. It's not just that we have, this desire to be consumers of influencer content. It's not making a lot of someone else's plight. I think it's definitely a tragic situation, and as we look at the documents, we'll see exactly what was reported to and observed by the police. And from this, I think we can derive some lessons that we all need to be more aware of. For example, as a new parent, this struck a chord, and it struck this kind of feeling of horror and of feeling, it's a totally relatable, unfortunate, just extremely upsetting situation. for any parent to hear about. And when you become a parent, I think it's totally true that there are things you would never wish on anyone and could never really appreciate until you become a parent to someone who completely depends on you and who is your world and whom you want to protect. So that is my preface to going into this. What I'm looking to do is create the kind of analysis that I don't really see a lot online and share with you what I've read, what I have thought was notable. Maybe I want to see what your opinions are on these comments that I've read, or, information that I've come across. There are some questions still swirling about this case. It's certainly true that, it's kind of a mystery exactly what happened in those 2 minutes that Trigg first was in the pool. But, what do we need to know as the public any more than we already do? However, there is a lot of information on the two people who are at the center of this, the parents, and they definitely have, I think, the right to want to preserve some privacy. However, the level of interest on them is simply due to the fact that they were so public in sharing their lives and, in part, made a great deal of their livelihood from this content, which really heavily featured their time with their kids. And so, we as the public and as viewers and the bigger community, I think you could think of it that way, we feel closer to the situation because we can see so much of their lives, just ready there on various platforms where you can consume it. So you can see, pictures and videos, and you can get a sense of what their family was like, what life for this little guy was like, and just gain an appreciation for who he was, his personality. And in a way, our discussion of him is going to continue to keep that alive and sort of at the forefront, that this was a beautiful young soul who had the world ahead of him. And that's why this is ultimately so sad and so tragic. And we want to protect our own children against hazards that could, affect their lives like this. So I'm sorry if this is too broad and open-ended and too kind of meandering as an introduction, but I just wanted to preface everything I was going to do and say in reviewing the documents with what the ultimate goal is, which is to have a dialogue and get your own opinions and analysis of what we can take away from this. If there's any questions still about the case, I'm not in a position to answer a lot of questions about exactly what happened because quite frankly, I'm not plugged into the world of like social media influencers. I don't really have a lot of exposure to social media. Like, I don't really seek it out, but this was a case that really struck me. I first read about it on Reddit and saw a synopsis of the case. It was really long, but I was listening to this as a podcast. The Law and Crime Network has a summary of what happened and some interviews with, legal experts, etc. And what I found that I really wanted to talk about and hear discussed was the real deeper takeaways as a parent and maybe a commentary too on life in general, like as lifestyles, raising our kids. What should we look for? What enabled this situation to happen? What are the sort of different characters involved in it? Let's explore what we can about that as well. I'm interested to know what tone and demeanor Brady Kiser in particular had when interviewed by the police. There's a summary of each of the interviews in the reports, and in each one, especially the first, I have concluded, based on what was written in the reports, at least, the police feel that Brady was not altogether forthcoming. Then there's this added dimension of Emilie Kiser wanting to keep some of the records and information sealed, and I'll discuss that too in a later video. Alright, so let's get into reviewing the documents. Okay, I'm opening the report to the first page. This is the Chandler Police Department General Offense Report. We have general offense information. The report was submitted by, I believe this would be a police officer, Tyler Shank. Occurred on May 12th, approved on May 13th by Ricardo Gonzalez. And we've got some additional information. The address has been redacted, of course. The offense is, was a death investigation completed at the resident's home. Of course, we know that. Reportee number 1 is Brady Kiser, lives in Chandler, Arizona. This is the house which was the site of the incident. And we've got some particulars on Brady. We've got involved number 1, Emilie. This is her, I think, maiden name that was not officially changed. So Emilie Gamble Henriksen. This is just all information about the people involved. So we have Brady, we have Emilie, we have the juvenile victim number 1, which I think here we have a redacted name, and that would be the son of Emilie and Brady Kiser, Trigg. So we've got the narrative text here. I'll read the narrative text just so that we get the foundation we can discuss further. So this is by, I think, Officer Tyler Shank, and the narrative is that at approximately 1840 hours, 6:40 p.m., May 12th, Chandler police were dispatched to the report of a drowning incident at an address redacted, Chandler, Arizona. The original call notes indicated the reporting party's son was in the pool. Call notes further advised that the son was unconscious and not breathing. The son was reported to be 3 years old. The reporting party was advised to open the door for responding officers. Call notes indicated compression instructions were being given. So at this point, Brady was being given CPR instructions for the phone. Upon being dispatched to the call for service, I immediately initiated my emergency lights and sirens on my fully marked patrol vehicle and began to expeditiously drive to the incident location. I think this stands for Officer Shalomo, and I arrived on scene at the incident residence at the same time and immediately ran towards the front door. A male would open the door for officers and then run inside. As I entered into the residence, I observed a small male toddler, lying motionless on the ground in between the couch and bar stools in the living room. I would immediately run over to the toddler, who appeared to have a lack of color in his skin and unconscious. The toddler did not appear to be breathing, and I also observed a large wet spot on the ground around the toddler. I also observed what appeared to be vomit on the ground around the head region of the toddler. Upon reaching the toddler, I immediately began giving chest compressions to the toddler. The male on scene who led officers inside was extremely distraught. The male subject would go and pick up an infant baby while I continued to give compressions to the unconscious toddler. Officers attempted to garner further information about the incident from the male. Officers were able to receive that the male subject had last seen the toddler approximately 5 minutes before the incident, while continuing to
provide emergency aid. I observed the throw up on the ground around the toddler's head and requested Officer Jalomo to verify if the toddler had an obstructed airway. While continuing with emergency aid, I ascertained that I had potential further medical equipment in my vehicle that could possibly be of assistance. I coordinated with Officer Jalomo to transfer giving chest compressions while I returned to my patrol vehicle. I traded out with Officer Jalomo, who began providing chest compression to the toddler, and ran to my patrol vehicle to obtain further medical equipment. Upon returning inside, it was advised that Chandler Fire and my supervisor were arriving on scene momentarily. While working through the equipment I obtained, fire arrived on scene. So the fire department arrived on scene, so I redirected outside to guide the fire department to the toddler. As fire entered into the residence, I provided firefighters with the information I obtained and observed while providing emergency aid to the toddler. I would then return inside the residence and clear out material belongings and furniture to provide Chandler Fire with a workspace. I was directed to get a towel for the firefighters, so I went to the nearest bathroom and provided Chandler Fire with one I located in a nearby bathroom. By this time, my supervisor arrived on scene as well as other assisting officers. As other assisting officers took over the scene inside, I was advised to exit the residence by my superiors. I would then convene with my superiors and provide a synopsis of the incident and the information obtained on scene. A short time later, the toddler was transported by medical professionals away from the scene to Chandler Regional Medical Center. I remained on scene to provide assistance to other officers until I was relieved by other Chandler police officers. I was provided information by assisting officers that the identity of the father is a Brady Kiser, who was confirmed through MVD records as the subject on scene when I arrived. The mother of the child was advised to be Emilie Henriksen. After being relieved of my duties on scene, I would continue my current involvement in the incident. Other assisting officers would continue with their involvement in the incident and conduct follow-up as advised of. The Chandler Police Criminal Investigations Bureau was notified of the incident, who would assume the investigation. This report is listed as a Chandler Police Assist to the Fire Department informational report. This incident report will be used to document Chandler Police's response and assistance to the report of a toddler who had been found unresponsive in a pool at an address. This report is meant to be a synopsis of pertinent events and is not a word-for-word transcript of the incident. For further information on the incident, please refer to other officers' supplemental reports and Axon body-worn camera footage. The status of this incident will be open pending further investigation. This incident report will be forwarded to the Criminal Investigations Bureau for further follow-up. I have nothing further at this time. Case disposition open, forwarded to Criminal Investigations Bureau. And so that was the investigation general offense report that was authored by Officer Tyler Shank on, seems like the incident date, May 12th, and the report was subsequently approved the next day by a senior officer, I believe. Okay, then we've got, I'm probably just going to skip a few pages because there's no narrative text there, but what we gleaned from that report was that there were multiple officers arriving on scene, rushing to the door. Brady answered the door and was administering compressions as instructed over the phone, it seems like, and was very distraught. And the officers each were assisting, giving compressions and emergency aid to the toddler who was found on the living room floor. And there was some vomit, looked like, around the toddler's head. And otherwise unresponsive and unconscious. And it just gives you that brutal feeling when you read it too, because we know what happened. We know the result of these efforts, and we also know that these efforts were heroic, and that these officers that arrived on scene were doing everything they could. Okay, so the next report was a supplemental narrative. Okay, and also we confirmed the time was 1840 hours, so 6:40 p.m. around and about that time. Okay, so we have the second narrative text from an officer, I believe, Mike White, same date, and supplemental narrative says on May 12th at 19:22 hours, I responded to, it looks like the address again, to provide scene security until CIB arrived to investigate. Now that would probably be the Criminal Investigations Bureau, CIB, yeah. CIB arrived to investigate. While waiting on scene, a cousin to the family, who also redacted here, arrived and requested to gather some items for the newborn from inside the residence. Oh man. I confirmed with Lieutenant Waters, and we allowed said person access to the home to gather some necessities for the newborn. I followed probably name through the residence as she gathered items, then exited the residence, and she proceeded to the hospital. I remained on scene and assisted CIB, the Criminal Investigations Bureau, and Evidence Tech while they conducted their investigation. This concluded my involvement in this case. Okay. So then we have Officer Nathan Duncan, a follow-up report. Looks like each of these has a cover page, and then the subsequent investigative report here, the narrative text says, on May 12th at 19:45 hours, 7:45 p.m., I was asked to assist Detective M. Rees with a drowning investigation at address in Chandler. I contacted Lieutenant Zed Waters via telephone to discuss the case. I learned that at 18:41 hours, a 911 call was received from that address in Chandler. The male caller indicated that he had found his 3-year-old in the pool and he was currently unresponsive. Okay, this is conveying the information about the 911 call. Emergency personnel arrived on the scene and immediately transported the child to the hospital. All family members left the residence to be with the child, leaving nobody at the residence. The residence was secured as a crime scene and nobody was permitted to enter the residence. It was requested that I author a search warrant to process the scene in this case. I authored search warrants and probably a serial number there, which the Honorable Richard Bake, Judge Bake, hopefully that's pronounced correctly, granted at 20:33 hours, so 8:33 p.m. I then responded to, looks like address, to execute the warrant and process the scene. During this time, I was assisted by Constable B. Fleck. The warrant was executed for 21:06 hours, and overall photographs were taken. Upon entering the residence, you enter a small foyer area and then proceed west into a great room to the south and kitchen to the north. Between these rooms, I observed a wet t-shirt that was tan in color. Also present were a couple of dry blankets. On the tile floor where these items were located, I observed vomit. It was apparent that this was where the child was taken after being removed from the pool. The residence had 4 access points leading to the backyard. Now this is relevant and important, I think, to discuss later. 4 access points, 4 doors that lead to the backyard. They were as follows. Large 4-panel sliding doors. Description underneath each of the 4 different access points. So the first one, large 4-panel sliding doors. These doors were located on the west side of the great room and led to the back patio. The main sliding door containing the locking mechanism was located on the north end. The handle measured between 33 inches and 37 inches from the floor. The locking mechanism measured between 38 inches and 41 inches from the floor. The door was unlocked and opened with little effort. The door was not self-closing or self-latching. On this door, there was an alarm system. When the door opened, the alarm did not sound. So to recap that, the great room, they're calling a room where there's a 4-panel set of sliding doors, and the measurement was taken of the handle from the floor. I guess that would be relevant in terms of how a toddler could get out with that handlebar height. The locking mechanism was a bit higher, it looks like, and the door was unlocked and opened with little effort, not self-closing, not self-latching. There was an alarm system, but when the door opened, the alarm didn't sound. Okay, then there is a second access point, which was the breakfast nook door. This door was an outward opening glass door. The handle was a lever-style handle that measured 41 inches to 42 inches from the floor. The deadbolt measured 39 inches from the floor. This door was also equipped with an alarm. The alarm did not sound when the door opened. This door did not shut properly and did not lock. The door was not self-closing. It appeared to be malfunctioning at the time. Okay, I mean, if you're thinking about this from the perspective of what the police ultimately recommended, at first we heard about this tragedy, this tragic drowning incident, right? We heard about this just terribly unfortunate event that claimed the life of a child. And we probably, as the audience, as potentially an audience of Emilie Kiser or just general audience, would probably think it was kind of heavy-handed to charge a parent for negligence. But I mean, we're going to see a series of behaviors and statements given to the police that, I mean, it does already read like it rises above just everyday carelessness in terms of the environment, this sort of built environment here with these doors. Okay, well, who knows? Maybe there are other barriers within the home where, children can't wander to these doors so that they can't, open the doors that are with minimal effort, opened and don't self-close or self-latch. So that was only the breakfast nook door. And to recap that, it was a door with a lever-style handle, opened outward, and was equipped with an alarm, which did not sound either when the door opened, and it didn't shut properly. The door didn't lock or shut properly, nor was it self-closing, and it even seemed to be malfunctioning at the time. Okay, then there's 2 more entry points into the backyard, and those would be master bedroom door, south end of the residence. This door was an outward facing or opening glass door, another outward opening glass door handle, which was lever style, that measured 42 inches to 43 inches from the floor. The deadbolt measured 39 inches from the floor. The door was not self-closing. The door was also equipped with an alarm. The alarm did not sound when the door opened. So none of these doors so far, and as we'll see, none of these doors would, even though equipped with alarms, sound when opened. Guest bathroom or guest bedroom doors, the last entry point, so the 4th access point to the backyard, that's located at the north end of the residence. This door was an outward opening glass door in the guest bathroom, which was attached to the guest bedroom. The door was a lever-style handle that measured 42 inches to 43 inches from the floor. Similar. The deadbolt measured 38 inches from the floor. The door was not self-closing. This door was also equipped with an alarm. The alarm did not sound when the door opened. Sounds like the alarm was faulty, and if it might have worked at some point, not working on all these doors leads me to believe that, there was something centrally wrong with an alarm system that they had installed. Okay, next section. Continuing investigation. Within the residence, I noticed a plate with pancakes on the sofa in the great room. A box of similar Belgian-style pancakes was located on the kitchen island. Next to the plate, there was a white handheld gaming system. It appeared that this was where the 3-year-old child had once sat. Between the kitchen and breakfast nook, I observed 4 bar stools. The stools were aligned in such a manner that it appeared they were placed to block access between the great room and the breakfast nook, where the outward opening door was located. It was unknown whether this was the purpose or not. Okay, so they had these bar stools positioned in a way that maybe suggested to the officer who was investigating that they may have been used as a barrier between the great room and the breakfast nook. So the great room being the room where there was the 4-panel large sliding doors to the backyard, but it's unknown whether that was the purpose. Continues, I entered the backyard and noticed a large rectangular diving pool that measured 22 inches wide by 45, feet, 22 feet wide by 45 feet long. That's how large their diving pool, I guess the backyard pool is. The deepest portion of the pool was approximately 102 inches deep, the north end. There was a diving board at the deepest end of the pool. The shallow portion of the pool was located on the south end and was 38 inches deep. The middle area of the pool measured 77 inches deep. On the west side of the pool was a hot tub that measured 7 feet wide by 7 feet long. The hot tub area was elevated above the pool, and there were stairs on the north and south sides to access this area. There was a seat on all 4 sides that was 19 inches deep. The floor of the hot tub measured 41 inches deep. The hot tub was built into the west side of the pool, with water being able to run into the pool. The temperature of the hot tub was 91 degrees. On the east end of the pool was a large lounge area, sometimes referred to as a Baja shelf. The depth of the water in this area was 17 inches deep. There were 2 steps leading onto the shelf, southwest end and northeast end. Southeast end and northeast end. The depth of the steps was 5.5 inches deep. The pool temperature measured at 81 degrees. On the southwest portion of the pool, I observed large netting and a fabric top rolled up onto PVC covers. These covers for the pool were not in use at the time. It was later learned that the covers were in place most of the time, but were recently removed so the family could enjoy the pool. They were never replaced. On the north end of the yard, there was a large inflatable slide in the grass area. There was a small amount of water in the basin. Throughout the backyard, I observed a large number of kids' toys. The toys were throughout the yard and even at the bottom of the pool and hot tub. No pool gate or barrier was in place at the time. As indicated above, safety netting identified as Catch a Kid was present but not in use. After this warrant, a copy of the warrant was left on the kitchen table. Nothing of evidentiary value was seized. Only photographs and measurements were obtained. I exited the residence at approximately 21:56 hours. All of my findings were relayed to Detective Reitz, who was at the hospital with family. On the following day, May 13th, 2025, I again assisted Detective Reitz with 2 additional search warrants. The first was written for Simple Systems LLC to obtain video surveillance from the house on that date, May 13th, at 11:06 hours. I emailed the warrant to Simple Systems LLC. I was contacted by Michael Wood with Simple Systems and informed that they did not have remote access to this data. They indicated that within the residence, there was an equipment rack in a closet near the garage. On this rack, there was a network video recorder NVR that stored the requested data. They added that the homeowner would have access to the data on their electronic devices as well. It was reported that the data was stored on a 2 terabyte drive identified with HIK Vision signage. On May 13th at 12:15 hours, I authored an additional warrant for the residence at, I think this was the same address probably, to be able to obtain this footage. Search warrant and a number was granted at 12:48. On May 13th, I assisted Detective Reitz with serving the search warrant at 14:21 hours. With us at the time was a name who was a family member of Emilie and Brady Kiser. After the warrant, a copy of the warrant was left with someone's name. This concluded my involvement in this case. Okay, so from that report, we've gleaned a lot of useful information that paints a picture and gives us more insight. So we have a number of doors that were described, all leading to the backyard. None of these doors had an alarm that worked, even though they do have an alarm system installed. And they're all very easy, these doors, to open. One of them seemed to be malfunctioning, the breakfast nook door. The large 4-panel sliding doors were unlocked and open with little effort. It says, not self-closing. The doors were not self-closing or self-latching. And the other 2 doors are sort of further away. They are from 2 bedrooms, one master bedroom and a guest bedroom door. They would open also onto the backyard and be sort of outward opening. And then we got some dimensions of the pool and got a sense of the layout of the pool. One detail was that it seemed like stools inside between the kitchen and breakfast nook were lined up in a way that looked like they were serving as a barrier to block access, maybe for the little toddler running around. And we also have information about the objects that were near the pool. So the hot tub, first of all, was also located in a elevated platform above the pool, but the water could run into the pool. And I believe that area was mentioned later on when Brady gave his statement to the police. I think he mentioned that this was where Trigg had been seen playing. I'm not sure if this was the grassy area, but we'll get to that as well. And the last detail, which is of note and extremely important, is that there was a net that they had purchased that they had been using, a pool cover called Catch a Kid. It was safety netting that was present but not in use, and it appeared to the officer that they were not in use at the time, but also noted that the officer says it was later learned that the covers were in place most of the time. I guess that would be seasonally, before summer, but were recently removed so the family could enjoy the pool. They were never replaced. That's something that we will want to discuss later too. Another feature about the pool was that there was all these toys around, even at the bottom of the pool, inside the pool. Some of these toys, had fallen in, I guess, or just were, either floating or inside, on the bottom of the pool. Large inflatable slide in the grass area. And in the hot tub, there were even some toys. and no pool gate or barrier, no fence, no pool fence. All right, so last detail, they had surveillance systems in place. They had video surveillance in place that was obtained by the police through these executed warrants, and the data that was requested was stored locally. It looks like there was a equipment rack in the closet near the garage, so the police went and actually got the footage because the company said they did not have remote access to the data. The police needed to get that data, the footage, from the closet where this data was being stored in the network video recorder near the garage. Okay, so then a couple more reports that might have details that are of interest. So I'm going to stop it here. This video probably has gone on way longer than anticipated. And we're just going to, in the next video, continue reading and recapping these Chandler Police Department reports. They do seem to be very detailed, and they're 55 pages. And I will return in the next video to continue with our reading and analysis of these reports. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.